To a certain extent, yes. And from the point of view, as you're right, a lot of us that are officers are also fathers. And when we're investigating the death of a child, like Mackenzie, when we go home and see our children and think, there but for the grace of God, this could happen to our child as well. It makes it tough. And it's been tough because it has been over 3 months now that we've been investigating this case, and we just haven't gotten that little break that we need to go ahead and turn the corner on this.
And you're convinced that is it going to come down to one phone call, one tip? Where's the phone? Here's where to find this person.
You know, at this point, it well could. We have gathered so much information over the last 3 months, and I think once we get that one tip, we're going to be able to start matching it to a lot of the information we already have, and I think the pieces of this puzzle will rapidly come together. But we really do need somebody out there to give us a call and give us that one tip we need.
Can we talk about the unbelievable network of not only man hours, but the system we've put together that you assembled, the FBI and all these small type, it's a task force. It's something I haven't seen very often, but just massive amount of work, right?
Well, we're very fortunate that here in North Central Washington, our agencies work very closely together, both on the field level, but also at the upper echelons as well. And so in the first hours, within 24 hours of Mackenzie's disappearance, I was getting a call from the investigation supervisor of Chelan County where she disappeared, and so was Douglas County, and so was East Wenatchee, and we were actually forming our task force within 24 hours that was starting to come together. And we have been working closely ever since that time. And the FBI's been involved. We've had help from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We brought in a lot of resources to bear on this, and that part has worked very well. All the law enforcement agencies that have come together to work this case.
You have questioned how many people? Hundreds?
Hundreds of people have been questioned. We literally interviewed hundreds of people. We followed up over 750 tips now.
Mind-boggling. Lie detector tests, too, right? Polygraphs?
We're using every tool that we can think of. We're using cell phone towers to go ahead and try to locate where certain calls are made from, both from Mackenzie and certain people we've looked at during the course of the investigation. We subpoenaed phone records throughout this investigation to help us along that as well. We have used polygraph tests as a way to go ahead and try to figure out, is this a person we need to focus more on or not? Absolutely. We're doing everything that we can think to do to solve this case.
Let's talk about the timeline, because the one big gap that you and I discussed yesterday is the cell phone. It's missing. It's got data on it that you can resurrect CSI style, I guess, somehow. But could you tell me that the frustration with this window of time that just seems to be mysteriously unaccounted for?
Well, early on we asked for Mackenzie's cell phone records, and we were able to get not only cell phone records, but text records as well. So in other words, we got not just who she called and who she received calls from, but the texts and some of the text messages that she received. Unfortunately, we were missing a 12-hour gap on the day that she disappeared. From midnight to noon, we don't have the text data. So we know who she was texting, but we don't know what those texts were. So we've been able to reconstruct some of that by interviewing some of those people, but we don't have all of that. And so you can't help but wonder if that's something that could have been very critical for this case.
And it's because Verizon just doesn't have the record?
Verizon's been very good about providing us a lot of text data. From my understanding, they may be the only company that even has the ability to do this. However, we don't know. They have not been able to give us an answer for why that information is missing. And it's disappointing.
Because that might be the key piece of communication.
We don't know. Yeah. We simply don't know.
If you find the phone, would you be able to retrieve it?
It's very possible we could. If we could find the phone, even at this late date, we think we might be able to go ahead and retrieve some of the data from there, including the text data.
The last phone call that you believe she made down here at the river.
Yes. Within 90% probability, technicians from Verizon have been of great assistance to us, and they were able to to basically take a look at the cell phone tower data that we had and say they believe with a 90% probability that her last phone calls were made at the Arundel Street boat launch, just a short distance from where we're at right now.
We don't know who she called, or is it the 6 number?
She called a number that she had not called before during the phone records that we had. And she called it several times. It looks like she never connected to that number. We talked to those people. They have no connection to her. And we've talked to everyone that we can think of associated with that number. And we can't find any connection between Mackenzie and that phone number. So it's baffling as to why she was repeatedly calling that number. One theory we have is that she dialed a wrong number once. We do know it went to a generic voicemail. You wouldn't necessarily know you're calling the wrong number. And then perhaps she just kept pushing resend. So that's one theory we have, but we don't know for sure.
You've gotten a tip very recently that spurred on metal detectors and scouring. Are you able to tell me if you got anything lately, like any new key pieces of evidence?
We are fortunate that we're continuing to get tips, and as we get them, we follow up. This is one of the latest tips we have followed up. We have gone out to a site. We have found some things. We don't know at the end of the day